Tiffany here of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay. And welcome to my channel where you'll get all of the latest cosplay tutorials to help you build your own. And on this cosplay tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I did the headpiece for my Gundam cosplay. And before we begin, remember to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you as part of our community. So let's begin. And here are all of the tools and materials I used to make the headpiece, and I'll have linked to all of these in the description. As well as I have a pattern for the headpiece available on my website, www.tiffanyGordonCosplay.com, also link in the description. To first start off, we're going to talk about the side parts. For this, I traced the main piece onto 10mm EVA foam and cut out with an X-Acto knife. And there's tons of lines for details on this piece, and for this, I traced where it was going to be, and then with a sharp X-Acto knife pierced halfway through the foam following the outline. And then with the use of a heat gun, heat treated and heat activated this line. This will cause that channel to go from a narrow channel to a much thicker channel that you'll be able to visibly see. And once that's done, I then went to my workbench and with a sanding drum, rounded all of the edges. There's also a bottom box-like piece as well as a top piece that kind of comes outward, and for this I cut each piece twice onto 10mm EVA foam and then glued them together. And after doing a quick sand, making all of the sides flat and rounding the edges, I then glued the bottom piece to the main top piece. And for the pointy part, I ended up cutting the bottom part at a 45, so that way they would stick away from the main flat piece, and then sanded them as well. And that would complete the EVA foam part of our side headpiece parts. And now for the main front part. And for this, with my pattern, the rectangle long piece, you're going to trace onto 6mm EVA foam. And then for the side pieces, they're gonna be 4mm EVA foam. And then for the pointed parts, you're going to do these onto 10mm EVA foam. Heat treating them first and then cutting them out with a box cutter. Now with the rectangle piece, you're going to see that there are lines down the midsection, and you'll want to get your X-Acto knife and a really sharp one, and you're going to cut down that strip at a 45. Then you're going to rotate the piece and cut down that strip again at a 45. This is going to leave you with a triangle-like shape that you'll be able to remove, and this will make it so your foam you can easily bend into the final shape. Then you're going to want to glue your side parts onto it. Again, you're going to be using contact cement glue, and this is the process of applying it to both pieces that you want to attach. Wait for the glue to fully dry, and then attach the pieces together for best results. Then back to the workbench, and you're going to get your sanding drum again, and you're going to flatten all of your sides so that way they look flush, and then you're going to round the edges. Now for the spikes, and for this, once you get all your pieces cut out, the main side point parts, these I cut out twice onto 10mm EVA foam, and you're going to want to apply contact cement glue and then attach the two pieces together. Then draw a center guideline, and then with a box cutter, you're going to cut at a 45 using that guideline for help, and cut all the way down. This will then blah blah blah. And once you have your basic shape cut, you can then go to the workbench and sand it smooth. This will also help prevent so much EVA foam dust if you had not cut away that extra foam. Next, trace where all of those spikes are going to sit on your main piece, and then apply contact cement glue and attach them together to give you your final result of your front headpiece. Now for adding color, and for this entire Gundam build, I actually did not paint it. I used stretch fabric vinyl to give me all of those vibrant colors. And I got all of this fabric at Spandex House. Be aware that the fabric is a little bit more pricey, and also for this process, you're going to be using so much contact cement glue. So you will have to buy a lot of it, and you really need to be wearing a respirator and be in a very well ventilated area while working and doing this process. And we're gonna first start off with the side pieces, and for gluing fabric you want to apply in small sections at a time. So you're not going to apply the glue onto the entire piece that you want to cover. You're only going to be applying it to one individual part at a time. So for this one, we're going to be applying the contact cement glue to the bottom part of the headpiece, and we're going to not apply the glue to the underside. And once that coat of glue is dry, you will then apply a second coat of glue onto the foam. And for the fabric, you're going to want to cut it so it's larger than the area that you're going to cover with EVA foam. And I highly recommend getting the Cricut cutting mats because they have a sticky surface, and you will get your fabric, put the right side facing downward, and then onto the back side, you will apply your contact cement glue. You do not need to go all the way to the edges, so you don't have to be concerned with getting glue on your mat. And you will also need to, once the glue is dry, apply a second coat of glue. This is the only way that this process works. It just requires so much glue. Once that's done, lay your piece of white fabric onto the top part, and then with your help of a leather burnisher, slowly rub it from one side to the other, getting out all of the bubbles and laying it flat. Once the top is covered, then you can slowly work towards the sides. Then for getting rid of any of the extra fabric and cleaning up your corners, you can use an X-Acto knife as well as scissors. Followed by trimming it so you only have about a half an inch on the backside. Then we're going to move to the larger blue section of this piece, and again you're going to apply the glue 2 times onto the foam, and then same to your fabric, and attach and cut off all of the extra. In this piece, remember all those lines that we put into the foam? Well, we're going to bring those to life, and for doing this you're going to want to get a flat clay working tool, and then you're going to push down the center of that line, and this is going to have your fabric go into that line, and you'll be able to see it now. And for covering the backs of these pieces, you're going to want to again apply the 2 coats of glue. You're going to fold over your edges, and then you're going to get another piece of fabric and lay it on top and smooth it out with your leather burnisher and trim all of the edges close to the sides. And repeat this same process to finish out your side headpieces. And now for the main headpiece. And for this one, we're only going to be using yellow stretch fabric vinyl. Again, doing small sections at a time. So I first started off with the outer part of the centerpiece, and then wrapping it towards the sides and trimming it with an X-Acto knife. After that was done, I then did the bigger spikes on the side, covering the top section, followed by the smaller ones, and then the back section. And that pretty much was how I covered all of the pieces with the fabric. I will note when trimming it, sometimes you might trim a little bit too close to the foam, and the foam may show. This is okay because you can go back and do touch-up paint so you will not see this, as well as we're gonna do some detailed painting. And for me, this is an anime, it's a Gundam, you want it to feel like that, and that typically means you want that bold black outline around everything. So for this, I got my Createx Colors black airbrush paint, but I used a paintbrush, and I went around all of the edges with this black paint, and this just made all of the pieces pop that much more. I will note, no, you cannot use Sharpies because the Sharpie will just wipe off of this fabric. And I did forget 2 little details of the blue fabric onto this piece, so I just cut them out and then glued them on the surface and continued with my detail painting. And for the main yellow part, I also did the black outline around everything. And ideally, I would have liked to make a center gem for this, but I just ran out of time. So I ended up painting on the green rectangle. I will note you do have to apply a few coats of paint with this, but it still looked pretty decent in the end. And that's how I made these pieces. I will note that I also had to attach them to my head, and for this I used Velcro, doing the non-adhesive back Velcro, applying contact cement glue to the back parts as well as the back of my Velcro, and attaching them together. And for putting them on, I'll show you where the Velcro is on the wig. And for the wig, I got this base purple wig off of Amazon, and I ended up getting a strip of ribbon and sewing the Velcro onto it on the forehead and to the side parts around my ears, and then sewing this to the wig. This made it really easy for me to just attach all of the pieces, and I could easily just move around or take them off in the middle of the con if they were bugging me. And that, guys, is how I made the full headpiece for my Gundam cosplay. I hope you found this video helpful for your own, and let me know in the comments. As well as don't forget to subscribe so you can become part of our community here and be up to date on when I release all of my cosplay tutorials. And I want to say a big thank you to all of my sponsors here on YouTube, as well as a bigger thank you to all of my members, specifically those legendary members who financially help support me so I can continue doing this as my full-time job and bring you more tutorials. And with that being said, I will see you next time for more cosplay tutorials, and I hope you have a good one. Much love, guys.